YouTubers, welcome back for another adventure, and I just want to finish up on this TaoTao ATA150G or Bull150 as they're calling it. So it had a few problems that I had to fix before I could ride it, right? It was popping fuses, so we took care of that. We fixed the gas line, also important. And back here, right, the rear end was moving about, threatening to throw the chain. So we put a bunch of lock washers on that. This bolt is normally welded here. The weld broke. So I flattened the bolt up. Obviously I put a lock washer here and a flat washer on the other side. There's also a lock washer and a flat washer. This needed to be tightened up a little bit. The chain looks like it's pretty good, and it has a tensioner on it. Probably could be a touch tighter. I put it in this spot for an important reason. I want you to notice the footprint, right? It is, quite honestly, about the same footprint as that Grizzly 600. And that Grizzly 600 is the biggest all-terrain vehicle that I own. Just another couple of things to note before we take the ride. There should be a front bumper. It was kind of plastic, and there was a front rack that bolted through to there and there, so it is missing that. In the back, there was this grab bar right in the back here, and there was a back rack. I think the only way the grab bar was, or the only way the rack was attached to the grab bar, so it's really not that surprising that the welds broke, right? Pretty cheap. Okay, here we go. Just a couple of things I want to show you from an awkward point of view. This step is 20 inches high, and you gotta kind of step on it without put your foot in the hole and swing up and around. I imagine with the back rack that would have been harder. A 20-inch step is huge. Generally speaking, they're only about 12 inches tall. This thing has the GY6 motor on it. GY6 is a pretty solid motor for anybody who's familiar with them. Obviously, just turn it on, make sure the brake is engaged. I have a tendency to forget to disengage it, so let me disengage it now, and so this thing starts pretty easily, right? It's an automatic, so you just put the shifter in reverse, back right up. Without trying to hit anything important. Forward. I'm trying to show you the whole riding experience here. This is going to be a little bit of review. As I mentioned, it has a pretty big footprint, so it seems to get tangled up easily. I'm unencumbered, so I can run it wide open if I wish. It does have brakes, though they're not very good. In the front, it's got front drums with cable, not hydraulic, so they're kind of lousy. let's go the right way. Yesterday I was riding it and I almost flipped it, because if you turn it to the extreme, the steering has a tendency to lock. You know, I jacked it up after that, lubricated it up, and still it has a tendency to lock. Kind of dangerous, right? Like right here, you can picture going into a slide, kicking it over and turning it. I'm not even going to attempt it, because once again I almost lost it yesterday. You're riding this thing up high, it's like kind of a bar stool. The suspension, you can tell by the it's very stiff. They might have done that to prevent you from like going into a turn, having the suspension collapse on down, which would give you a better possibility of rolling it. I did check the suspension adjustment on the back. It's all the way down, so to speak, so it's on the softest it could be. On the fronts, both of them are one click from the softest they could be. So it would be hard to improve the ride on this thing unless you replace the shocks with something better. It does have China shocks on it, so you might be able to find a cheap set with a reservoir from a company known as Peace. They're also China junk, but they're a little better than this. The problem is you're not cheap, right? Front shocks will set you back over $100. For me, from a financial point of view, I only have a fuse and a few lock washers into this thing, so I'm not in too bad a shape. So you can argue for $375 I have no complaints, and I really don't. I believe when you buy something used and not running, what you get is what you get, and you don't get to whine about it later. So I'm not going to complain about what I bought. I bought what I bought, and now I own it. About buying this thing new, I looked it up. They seem to cost about $1,600 plus tax plus transport. I think you could easily tie up, you know, a couple of thousand by the time you get it to your house. I would not recommend buying this thing. To me, this is kind of, it's got like no place. It's really not a trail rider, right? I can imagine doing what I'm doing, that belt's getting as hot as blazing, right? If you're trying to get up and down hills and junk like that, right? I can imagine that belt's getting plenty warm. Doesn't handle very well, and you're up too high to really be a sport model. I wouldn't recommend it for that. You're underpowered for racing your buddies, so it really, I'm not quite sure what its place in the world is. For $2,000, you can buy a Honda Recon used in nice shape. So I'm not sure why you would buy this piece of junk. The frame is what I would call soft. Yeah, let's stress that belt a little bit. The frame is what I would call soft, right? The metal isn't very good. So if you pound it, especially if you're a full-size person, you know, you got a couple of 100 pounds behind you. It did climb that hill easily enough, not that it was huge. I would never buy this for full price. For 375 bucks, 400 bucks, 500 bucks on the outside. I don't know, maybe you buy it and let your 16-year-old think they got something, 15-year-old, though it says don't ride if you're under 16. So let's stay with that. I guess, see, like right there, the steering was fighting me. Right? It had, when you turn it to the extreme, it seems to almost bind up. This thing has not been banged around too bad. By that, I mean it doesn't appear bent underneath. I don't see anything all jacked up. So I'm not thinking that the binding is because of that. I'm thinking the binding is just the way it is. I don't know, it'd probably be fun to drive in the snow. Once again, it's a little top heavy. So, using your body English to throw it into a curve or a turn or something and, you know, make it respond. I don't think it'd be good at that. From a foot point of view, it's kind of awkward. Like, where do you put your foot? Like, you don't want to be right in the brake. You got to kind of lift your foot up to apply the back brake. It's really an awkward piece of dookie. You know, if you can get one. I mean, the GY6 is a nice motor. From a cosmetic point of view, this thing does look pretty good. But even for me to put it on Facebook or Craigslist or something and sell it, unless I give it away as a parts machine for more or less what I paid for it, you know, I don't want some guy buying this for his kid, and the first day out, his kid breaks it. Oh, we have a cat. And then he's back in my driveway yelling at me. And, you know, chances are if he breaks it, he's going to really break it pretty good, right? Because if he jumps it, he's going to break it in half. So there it is. I think I've done my part by getting it running and moving. I mean, I could put the lights on it. You could do other things with the lights. You could just take the headlights here, drill a little hole underneath and put an LED in it, maybe red or orange. I mean, red ones, and you could alternate flash it, or, you know, red, blue. Right, when that one goes blue, this one goes red, and then when that one goes blue, this one goes red, right? So one could do, you know, a bunch of interesting things. You can hang stuff off of it. You could build the bumper. I don't see anywhere where this front end is something you want to crash into. So if you're going to put a bumper on it, you might want to plate the bottom here. You know, put some gussets on some corners or something to attach the bumper to. Because honestly, it's supposed to be bolted on here and there. I just picture if you hit anything solid, you would torque the frame, and then you got other problems. So I don't know if it's better to run it without a bumper or to put a bumper on there. Anything you mount the bumper to, you're going to amplify the amount of strain on the frame if you crash. It's a China piece of junk. It's no better than that. Maybe it looks better because it's bigger, but it's a China piece of junk. And for what I have into it, I'm okay. But God forbid you pay $2,000 for this. I'd buy a secondhand Recon before I ever bought this thing. Anyway, So I hope you guys enjoyed the repair videos. From that point of view, it's a good project. Whether you're fixing an electrical system on one of these Chinas or a Honda, it's always about the same stuff, right? You go through the same basics. You know, for fixing the back of it and all that, you know, it was not that big a deal. Obviously, replacing a trash hose, you do that more frequently on the China stuff because they do less of a good job putting the full chemistry of flexible into the fuel. What am I going to do with this? I'm not quite sure. I kind of got the idea when I mentioned it to my son that he doesn't want this anywhere near Pennsylvania. I can't blame him for that. But it does start easy, and it does run, and it does move, right? So from that point of view, it's better than walking. Anyhow, we'll see what becomes of it. I want to thank everybody for dropping by to watch and comment and subscribe. Please remember, feet down, heads up, and do not buy a TaoTao ATA150 dog or George, or a Bull150, a TaoTao Bull150, because it's kind of a piece of junk. Take care now.